welcome to today's mixed media project. I'm super excited you guys are here. My name is Karen Campbell, and I am the owner of AwesomeArtSchool.com, as well as the author of the really fun How to Draw Fun Fab Faces series, which is available on Amazon. Today I'm doing a project based off of this little watercolor by Anna Kuiper, and I'm working in my favorite current journal, which is an old drawing book. Actually, I have 5 pages left, you guys, out of all those projects that you've been looking at. If you follow me on YouTube, every single one of them is in here. So what I did is I just put down a layer of gesso and a layer of white acrylic paint. That's all that is. And I had masking tape down the center to kind of shore up those pages since the seam was compromised. So that's all that this is really to get started. And then I'm going to take my matte medium and I put down like a really thin layer, one side at a time, you'll see me in a second, of matte medium. And I'm just cutting that tissue paper in half because it's much easier if you want to cover up like a whole spread like that. It's much easier if you don't have that seam in the middle to contend with. So I lay it down while that whole surface is sticky, and then I put another layer on top. You would just want to make sure to kind of I just use my fingers and run them over the wrinkles, and if there's any bubbles, just make sure to pop them, or else they'll get snagged. Oddly, this left side was starting to tear, so I had to be really careful. I don't know, though, I was much more rigorous with the right side, but for some reason the left was tearing, so I just covered it up really quickly, and then I let it go. So there's my book by Anna Kuiper, and there's my little reference. I do have to say I really wished I had picked a different reference. It was really, really, really tough. First of all, it was small, so it wasn't like big enough for me to really understand what I was getting myself into. And secondly, the face pose was super challenging. My How to Draw More Fun Fab Faces book, I have 3/4 view and profile, which I have awesome systems to kind of make each of those. If you go off of those of the beaten track, so to speak, even I have a lot of difficulty sometimes. This is an upturned face, so you see the bottom of the nose and a full mouth, and then the eyes look kind of squinty because her chin is up. I'm doing it now, that's why my voice sounds funny. Not that you can see me, but your chin is up and your eyes are looking down because she's a diva and she's looking down at you. And so what I really struggled with this project was making her nose and not look like a pig nose because you're staring up under it. And also Anna's illustration, which is absolutely beautiful, is just real quick watercolor. And this mixed media is, you kind of can get yourself into quite a hole with all these different layers and layers of goop and goo and watercolor this and water soluble that and acrylic this and pens and markers, and sometimes I end up in a big fat mess, which is kind of what happened today, but it happens. That's actually napkin I bought at the dollar store. That's what that is. Just put some matte medium and kind of made that flower sit down on her head. Again, using that reference as inspiration. I have a couple layers of gesso on her face, and I started to play around with my Stabilo. Hi, Zozo! With my Stabilo, but for the hair, but didn't really get very far there. I'm using that's a navy blue Stabilo, which is water reactive, and that little scribble by the flowers there and right there, those are Winsor Newton watercolor markers, which are very, very daring and dramatic if you've ever used them. It's very bold, it's very fun. But I actually wasn't feeling it today. I was super inspired by that little thumbnail picture, and then things started going wrong. So this is my first layer, and I'm like, I'm not really having this so much. It is fine for the first layers, as if you're doing many layers, it's fine. If the first one doesn't come out, it's fine if the first 14 don't come out. But the problem is, the longer it takes to get your schnizzle together, the longer your project takes. So an average project for me takes about an hour and a half. This one I was at for 4 hours today. I gotta tell you, she kind of kicked my ass. She really did. But but I got through it. And actually, I even edited this entire video before I added the little sparkle at the end. And when I figured out, maybe she just needs a little sparkle. Anna has a sparkle in hers. Why didn't I do that to mine? And I went all the way back, reset up my camera, the whole setup, just to film that last sparkle that you'll see at the end. And oh man, what a difference it makes. So if you learn anything from my videos, just please don't give up. And trust me, this entire 4 hours, I wanted to give up. I was like done with her once I started. But please just keep going. Just keep going, because you just don't know if you can salvage. Like sometimes you can just keep going. No matter how much it kills you, and you might just be able to salvage the wreckage in the end. So that's my big chubby Stabilo. Before that, you saw me using more of those watercolor markers. So all these materials are water soluble, and I think that's what was driving me nuts. And before that was the Inktense pencil and the Stabilo pencil, and here's more water soluble Winsor & Newton. Okay, and I think what I needed to do was just stop with the water soluble. I should have just gone with acrylic, something that would stay put. So this time I do add some gesso. That's why this is all mooshed out and washed out, because I need that stuff to stop reacting. That's the downside of using 88 layers of water soluble materials, is that they're going to move every time you go to do other things. So like you have to be kind of careful. So what I do is I have that gesso, which kind of like locks everything into place, and then I dried it with my hair dryer. Now I'm going in with just plain Prismacolor colored pencils to see if I can just switch gears and salvage the mess that I'm making. But usually by this time I'm like well underway and moving on to like the fun parts of the project. And in this case, I'm still like at the beginning, right? She still has just so many layers to go. But I'm working with my Prismacolor pencils. And all these layers the upshot is they do all result in the end with like luminous layers that you just can't get from doing two layers worth. And so I'm just impatient. That's just my personality. I want everything done and finished yesterday. And sometimes, suck it up, Buttercup. Even Karen Campbell's got to do 8 million layers and work and work and work and work and work. So I did, and it killed me. And that's why I call her Diva at the end, because she really, really tested my patience today. So I'm still going. She still has a really long way to go, but I am kind of having fun at this point, because I'm, at least things have stopped moving on me, right? So she does have a nose of a pig right now, though, which, I mean, it is. I'm just calling it like I see it. I know you guys see it too. So it was a big challenge for me too on this project, is that in Anna's reference, she is looking down like I mentioned before. And so what I realized was that my head tilt is not drawn appropriately as hers. So mine is more of like a little bit of like a 3/4. It's actually more like just a 1/4 tilt to the side. So her nose is going to end up not being a pig nose, thankfully, but not also really front on either. And you can see I do her nose, many renditions of it, to get it to be turning the right way. But oof, it was a struggle today. She definitely was the hardest face I've done in maybe ever. So her hair, I don't even know what is happening with her hair. I don't know. I just don't know. I lost my fluorescent golden paint that I was crying about losing the other week, my last video. So I went out and I got I couldn't find just a single tube of the fluorescent in the golden fluid. So I got some Liquitex, just like regular acrylic, and I mixed it with some airbrush medium, and that's why I could get it all watery like that, but still stay. So I just put it around the edges as like a frame, and I splashed some on her lips, which is great because it picks up on the pink that I've already used for the Prismacolor pink on her cheek, and added some pink there too. And then of course her flower in her hair was fluorescent pink also, so it kind of like helped tie it all together. I'm going over with gesso yet again, and I remember distinctly staring at that reference, which again was way too small for what I needed it for. and her pig nose. Don't even get me started. So I'm trying to like salvage what I can now and usually if I'm in full freak out panic mode, I just usually grab my gesso. And of course, when I'm really hating my projects or I need to completely switch gears, I grab my Mod Podge, which I didn't even need. Hi, Rosie. I didn't even need any Mod Podge, and I dumped it on her face anyways, because then I can switch gears entirely. I have got to fix her pig nose. Could be a pug's nose too, right? So while I'm debating of how to handle her nose, I'm just like, honestly, I'm trying to get into the project. I'm adding lots of shading. I love lots of drama, using layers of Pitt pens and the cinnamon and in a little bit I'll be using the purples. There's the white right there, and of course the glossy surface that's created by the Mod Podge is just perfect for blending all of these different Pitt pens, and I use Posca pens as well, and that is totally fine. Someone the other day asked if I could use Tombows on top of Mod Podge. You can, but again, it's a super slick surface, and so when you add water or Mod Podge or anything, it's almost gonna like disappear. Whereas these Pitt pens, which is I'm using right now to embellish her ridiculous hair, they dry permanently, like eventually. They stay wet for a little bit and then they kind of set in. That is, I was really annoyed with this whole project at this point and her stupid nose. So I grabbed like this puffy paint applicator and I just was like, I'm doing her eyelash with this puffy paint. Like, take that, Diva, stupid lady. And then it like exploded in her hair. And then I was like, oh, why do I get myself into these messes? So I'm using my Posca pen in white, which is just uber satisfying to just add highlights. And then again, her nose was like not quite right. And I guess what I figured out kind of after I finally like stopped and looked at my project, which you have to do, which I did not do for the longest time, which is why I was having such a hard time, is get some perspective, step back. This should have been a 3/4 or like a 1/4 face, and I was doing her nose now, went from a pig nose to straight on, and it should not have been straight on. It's a little bit to the side, which I wasn't registering. I was just so caught up in the medium and the materials that I was using. I was forgetting about the actual features of her face. I do turn it eventually. It just takes me a minute to realize that. So in the meantime, again, I'm just really switching back and forth between highlights and shadows and highlights and shadows and deepening the shadows and brightening the highlights, and it's a really fun game. But look at the result. You can see it now. It's starting to get really dramatic, right? Her highlights are like really punchy. Her eyelids, I teach you how to do that in my first book, when you punch out those eyelids and make it look like dramatic makeup. It's so fun. And same thing with like her little chin and like her pouty mouth. That's all the play between highlight and shadow and highlight and shadow, and it's really fun to make those differences. I've been having this huge hankering, that's just gesso that I'm kind of putting around her, because that big circle next to her face was looking to me like a giant earring. It was very distracting, so I gessoed it back. I've been wanting to put bedazzles in my journal I've had this burning urge to do that lately, and today because she was so annoying, I'm like, today's the day. She's getting earrings and little bedazzles in her flowers, and I'm so happy, even though I'm not sure what it's going to do the other side, but whatever. So I'm stamping on Beware the, and then I'm going to write in Diva, because I really wanted to this page needed to be pulled together. She had so much personality, but the rest of the page was kind of right, that white paper and the white underneath. So this gives it some pizzazz, and I give a little bedazzle for the eye to kind of pull that together. She really was a diva. She drove me crazy with all of her layers today. I'm just using this stamp pad to stamp all around the edges and kind of edgy it up. Again, it was like a little lonely on the side. I actually came up to finish off, and then I realized, oh, look at that. No, that's just straight up black at this point. I needed to pull more of the colors in. Her hair was really random, so I put the hair colors around the outside, and that really helped, I think, pull the whole journal page together and have a little bit more cohesiveness. So it is a good idea to repeat your colors around your page. I poured one more layer of Mod Podge on her face, and I'm using my little, that's just like a gel pen, to add that sparkle, because now she truly is the sparkly diva dynamo that she was meant to be. And I'm so glad I remembered to do that, because what a difference. That made me go from hating my page to loving it. Just those sparkles. So, woo! Look at her go! Oh my gosh. Now, she finally came together, but she was a diva, and she almost won that fight. That was a close one. I still don't know what's happening with her hair, but I don't really care. Her face is super glam, and all those layers and layers and layers and Mod Podge and paint and yumminess all came together finally in the end. And I'm so glad you guys were here to witness it. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed it, you can give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you don't miss out. Thank you.
No, I'm trying to skip more.
Who's happy it's Friday?
Me. What?
Life is good. TJF, right?
Sure, I guess.
Don't get chicken crumbs on Leonard. He doesn't like it. If he gets hungry, he might close his mouth.
Mom, you're so weird. Why are you filming this?
YouTube.